Are we hardwired to run from pain? Psychology reading. Why is it so hard to face the difficult truths about our lives and grow from them? One reason is that human impulse to avoid painful emotional realities seem to be hardwired into our nervous systems. During the 1950s, psychologist Richard Solomon proved that dogs trained to avoid physical pain and the emotional suffering that comes with it never abandoned the evasive strategies they learned, even when those strategies have outlived their usefulness. In Solomon's classic anticipatory avoidance learning experiment, a dog was confined to a cage in which half the floor was electrified. A buzzer was sounded just before an electrical shock was delivered. The dog quickly learned to jump to the other side of the cage, just at the sound of the buzzer. And once the dog had learned this behavior, it occurred each and every time he heard the buzzer, even though no shock was ever given again. Presumably, the dog's nervous system had gone on autopilot. No shock was being paired with the buzzer anymore, but the dog never tested whether he could stop panicking and just sit still. His brain seemed intent on never taking that risk again. Running away was now a neurological reflex reaction based on past suffering. Human beings show the same anticipatory avoidance of emotional pain. When we feel let down as children, but those close to us, we may jump away from the real intimacy as adults, never again risking the shock of disappointment or betrayal or abandonment again. And this anticipatory avoidance reflex deprives us of learning that the world can offer us much more than our childhood did. One reason that this takes work is that the human brain seems anatomically equipped to bury specific memories of what caused us pain in childhood, while remembering and reproducing the techniques we use to avoid it. We emotionally run away from things that remind us of our traumas without knowing why. According to psychology professor Lynn Nadel and others, recent research suggests that the parts of the brain involved in maintaining patterns of behavior are different from those involved in recalling events. Emotional skills and habits we acquire seem to reside in the cerebellum, basal ganglia, and amygdala. Memories of events seem to reside in the hippocampus. The hippocampus can literally forget or suppress exactly what a person lived through, while the amygdala remembers very well how badly it felt and perpetuates the mental gymnastics that were used to make the pain stop. This means we can live like children who, having stepped on nails, a memory lost in the hippocampus, resolve to never walk again, a behavior pattern permanently encoded in the amygdala. Why does the hippocampus forget the real source of our suffering? We've already gone over one reason. Temporarily denying or burying traumas we lived through as children may be necessary to survive emotionally. Another reason is that memory circuits in the hippocampus are not fully developed in children, while those in the amygdala are. Moreover, the nerve cells that make up memory circuits in the hippocampus are extremely sensitive to stress. Research has shown that stress causes the adrenal glands to release cortisol into the bloodstream, and high levels of cortisol are toxic to the hippocampus and can actually cause the cells there to wither and die. Think about that. It means that the stress of being emotionally abused by somebody as a child can change your brain and make it harder to remember the abusive experience you lived through. But the sadness and fear you experience because of that, as well as the strategies you adopted to avoid being hurt by others, don't fade. That makes it very hard to put blame exactly where it belongs and learn that the world might be different from the way it was at home. When we encounter danger, for example, we are not only experiencing the emotion of fear, but prepared to either fight or flee, with our hearts pumping more vigorously and our oxygen intake increasing and glucose flowing out of cells into the bloodstream. Our eyes may be directed towards or away from whatever has frightened us. Our irises may expand to let in more light or contract to let in less. We may tremble or feel our stomachs thinking. Body-mind reactions are altered by previous experience. One's entire being, brain, gut, heart, and sixth senses is trained by what one has lived through to screen out certain events and perception and screen in others. In order for the brain not to be overwhelmed by the constant deluge of sensory input, some sort of filtering system must enable us to pay attention to what our body-mind deems the most important pieces of information and to ignore the others. What we perceive as real is filtered along as gradient of past emotions and learning. What we respond to and how we respond to it depends neurologically on what we have concluded about the world in the past, even if our conclusions were based on a single painful interaction and have completely outlived their usefulness.